Hey guys, so this is the final EP of the Location project, and this is probably my more favourite of the four, just because I think after I've done this so much now, I know what I want to do, and I know how I need to do it, and there's a lot of memories in this place, and a lot of the melodies in here were very took a lot of time to create because I wanted to get it right. And a lot of ideas and sparks sort of came to mind. So, with no further ado, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about each song. Well, in this first one, I'm going to talk about the field. And so, my grandparents used to live in Leire, which is why I have this connection there. And they used to own this field. And when I was little, I used to go there quite a lot. I used to sort of just run around in it and just play in it, and so I made this track really just out of a clock that I found that was sort of playing in the church, that was within the church. I think it's actually a meter reader for like electric meter or something, but electric timer. But anyway, I thought it sort of sounded like a clock, and I was like, that's really, you know, nice to use for this, because obviously that time's gone now and that's not really around anymore. So everything you can really hear in here is basically made from that clock, apart from the first section. So the first section starts off with just using a pad that was actually just made from mud that was sort of just stretched and pitched with a little bit of reverb on it. So so that's obviously the altered recording of the Mud Squatch. And the original of the Mud Squatch you can actually hear in the middle section at about 2:02 here. And yeah, no, it's which is, so obviously it's been heavily processed quite a lot. But I really like that sort of beginning feel coming into this, sort of that euphoric sounds. That's what this EP is mostly about, sort of euphoria and, you know, childhood experiences. The lead itself is made from a ticking clock that was basically just sort of granulated, so really short grain, and just so it just makes a tone basically, and I've sort of just pitched that tone accordingly to the melody that was created within the field. The dark sort of pad you can hear is that same ticking clock that has just been sort of extended. So that's pretty much that particular track really. The little Foley stuff that you can hear in it is all sort of just used from gates, as in like from the field, like the fields of the gate, like let the cows in and stuff. That, for example, and some other bits too. And so yeah, and also I made a stab out of the clock as well. This little thing here. That's just actually just a tick, but I've sort of just messed around with it in Ableton a lot. I think using quite a little bit of vocoder on that, to be honest. But that is pretty much this track, guys. The little this really nice texture you can feel actually is just the clock sped up, which is this. So that is literally the clock just sped up loads, and that's all it is. It's just sped up loads and pitched up, I think. But that's pretty much the song, guys. It's really nice, quite a nice full sounding track with a really nice bit of sound design in it. So I'm really quite proud of this one. And yeah, the next one we're looking at is the Queen's Arms pub. Okay, so now we're going to look at the second track within the CP, which is the Queen's Arms. This is a pub that's actually in Leire, and there's quite significant memories that go with this one. So, my grandfather had his funeral in this pub, and there's quite a strong memory of him in there. And so this track is largely piano because I want it to be natural sounding as possible, obviously with the melody being created within the Queen's Arms. The outside sound is largely just birds that have been taken from sort of the garden of the pub in the Queen's Arms, and that was all done sort of just totally on purpose, just pure nice sounding piano. The middle bit section of how it drastically changes is done also on purpose, to sort of that epic sort of sounds are there, just totally, the idea of it is just that heavenly sort of feel, almost sort of like, being taken to heaven, that kind of thing, that really nice uplifting emotion. So that's the idea behind it, and a lot of the sounds that you can hear are taken from the church, which I thought was quite appropriate. Number one, he was married in that church, and my grandfather was married in that church, and number two, the idea of ascension, and clocks are used in it as well, for time and just memories that have gone by, and all that sort of stuff. So let's jump into the pads then, because obviously the beginning is solely made from piano, just Steinway grand piano from Logic. So let's start with the pad, this lovely uplifting. That's made from actually made from the field gate. That nice vocal sounding is actually just the gate closing really slowly. Which it sounds really nice, and it sounds like almost like a choir, which it isn't, of course. But that's all there really is to that track, is just that pads, those pads, and the foley that goes with it. So in this section here, where you can hear all those textures coming in, are where all the sort of church locks come in. Here, it's just a church. This is the door of the church opening. This is again more of the clock. Actually, no, sorry, that's the gate. This is the clock here. It's very quiet. Let's play that again. And that's what it is, just sort of filling up that silence and that sort of beat to it, and I think that's really quite nice. And those sharp kick sounds you can feel are just actually the clock again, just really heavily processed with OTT in Ableton. And they sound really nice together. But that's really this track. It's sort of just trying to get that transition from natural and really nice listen to just sort of that epic celebration. That's the total idea of this. But thank you for listening. This is a very personal track to me, and I'm quite happy with the result. Cool, thank you. So welcome back. This is the last track of the location project and the Leire EP. This is the church. This is St. Peter's Church in Leire. And this one really tried to play with the raw recordings that I took from the church and the sort of nature outside, as it were. Also just naturally raw recordings, to be honest. So the beginning of the track sort of starts out with this me opening the door into, the nature outside, and I don't really have many memories of this church, as I didn't really go to this church very often, but I know that in my family this church means a lot. My parents are married in the church, my grandparents are married in the church, so it's a very special place. So I just wanted to play with as much as I could in this place. So what you can hear at the beginning is the church door opening, and then me slowly walking out into nature, of which the leading synth sort of comes in. So a lot of this is again made from a clock, and the field and the gates located in the field. That's really the basis of this, I really started trying to play with all these sounds, and obviously, as I said, the raw recording. So the way that I made the lead, this sound here, is basically it was a preset that I found on Alchemy, and I just loaded in this stab that I made from this clock, and it just instantly worked. I hadn't hardly to do anything with it. I didn't have to pitch it a lot at all. It just suddenly just sounded really nice. Combined obviously with the preset sound, I sort of turned that down and let my sound design take over a little bit, but it really added some nice textures to it, so it sort of became really quite clean, and so just added a little bit of delay and reverb, and that's the lead. The pad itself is again the same stab, slowed down so it just goes throughout the chord sequence, and then just with an LFO that just comes in, and that's all it is. And it sounds nice. The second half of the drop, where you can hear all the sort of Foley sounds coming in, is again made from the original clock, which is actually this. So this is what I actually recorded and used within all three of the Leire tracks. I also took an impulse response of the actual reverb in the church, which sort of made this. It's actually a clap that was taken from the church, which is quite cool, using that reverb in the songs. All the reverb in all of the pads is actually taken from that. I've just loaded it into Space Designer, and so it should sound all like it's coming from this church. It's quite cool. Other than that, that's pretty much this track, to be honest. You've also got some little gate sounds in there, same as in the previous tracks that you probably recognise, and that's pretty much it. So in conclusion, really, this has been quite an eye-opening project for me, really. It's sort of really pushed my creative ability, and really started getting me thinking about how I can transform sounds into tracks. Alongside that, I found that actually, when you immerse yourself in an environment, you see things differently. You do change, and obviously, the more you do this sort of stuff, the more sort of advanced you become in sound creation and sound design, and you know kind of what you want from a sound. You know how to make a certain sound, and you become very familiar with your tools that you have around you, like Ableton and Logic and Alchemy and stuff. And this sort of stuff I'd love to do more in the future. It's been quite enjoyable, especially with traveling with my videographer, who's been great. And no, it's been really enjoyable, and thank you if you've watched all 4 of these videos, thank you very much for doing so. It's been enjoyable just to talk about my processes and talk about how I feel about each place and each track, and a little bit how I made it. I was explaining in much detail, obviously, to try and keep these videos down to a short length, but any questions I'm willing to help answer. And but no, thank you for following me on this journey. It's been really quite enjoyable. Anyway, I hope to see you guys soon, and yeah, thanks very much for joining me. This has been the Location Project.